Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Goldilocks, how to get it just right. Today, we come to you from the beautiful Jewel, Belize, and we welcome everybody to this wonderful conversation that we are going to have with our special guest, Kevyn Rustici. As we get started, let's take a moment and think about why it is that we talk about Goldilocks and the Goldilocks community, and what is the value proposition this community brings to us, and how it empowers us to live our purpose and pursue our dreams. Think about your first feeling as you heard about Goldilocks or you read Goldilocks, whichever way you got introduced to the story. Does it remind you of how Goldilocks is always looking for something that she wants to eat that is not too hot or not too cold? Wherever she wants to sit or lay down, she wants to make sure it's not too hard or not too soft. And what she's telling us in a very childlike innocence and approach is that we too should embrace circumstances and opportunities of life without being on either extreme, but somewhere in that middle ground where it is just right. Why is it that important? Research shows that we can all influence only 3 levels from where we are. Think about that. Only 3 levels from where we are, we can impact and drive influence. Whether our intentions are truly global and for the greater good, or whether our intention is purely selfish and my own growth and development and my own economic prosperity. Either case, for me to accomplish what I want to, I need to be able to influence as many people as possible. So imagine for a moment, whatever it is I am pursuing, I'm coming from the extreme right end of a perspective. That means I can only influence 3 levels towards the center because I am already at the extreme, right? There is only one directional influence I can have, and that is towards the center. Now imagine I am at the extreme left perspective of that same issue. Similarly, I can only influence 3 levels towards the center from that extreme left hand. But for a moment, think about what if I broaden my horizons and I understand and take into consideration various perspectives, and I'm coming from somewhere left or right of center. I don't have to be dead center, but somewhere around left or right of center, I'm coming at a particular issue or a matter. How many different directions of influence can I have to persuade people? I have everybody in that middle row, and then I have 3 levels of influence to my right and 3 levels of influence to my left. All of a sudden, I have 7 degrees of influence. Why wouldn't I, in my most selfish moment, choose to influence 7 degrees, 7 levels, and multiply the outcome I want? And why in God's green earth would I ever take an extreme position and less than half my opportunities? Goldilocks is teaching us a very, very important lesson. If we are going to get things just right, we need to come at every situation, every issue from that just right position. If we come too far from either extreme, we're actually excluding a whole lot of people and giving people no way, opportunity, or room to grow, including ourselves. It is the hope of this program and our conversations as we build this community that we truly build a centered community, an empowered community, that even if we start with the point of selfishness, we soon realize our success is predicated on our shared prosperity. And little by little, our horizons expand, and you'd be surprised how much more fulfilling that journey then becomes. And we always talk about what is your purpose. Have you ever stopped and thought about what is your purpose? Each of our purpose lies in the intersection of what we love, what we are great at, and what the world needs. Once again, if you look deep, your purpose is in the center of three elements: what you love, what you're great at, and what the world needs. Take any situation that you're pursuing. If you dig deep enough and you get perspectives from different people, you will realize it's going to be a 2 or 3 prong components. And how do you find that center? And how do you show up from that center in a way that you can truly succeed? Even the concept of purpose comes from that centeredness. Today, we are going to be talking about mentoring and how mentoring allows us to be ennobled and in the process ennoble somebody else. Why is ennobling important? When we come into this world, we are a sponge. We are open to all perspectives and we are excited. And we are elated when we find new things and find new ways, right? Have you ever watched a little child? Gigi, Thea comes to my mind, right? Little child, when they see something, they're so excited, they are full of hope, they have no biases, and they're going to jump into it with such joy. And what do we do as adults when we see a child? Oh, we're going to make sure that they're happy, they're fulfilled, they are safe. Whether we realize it or not, instinctively, we're ennobling young people around us. And in that process, we are learning how to be kind, how to be loving, how to be giving. No matter how angry we are, when you see a child, doesn't it automatically make you smile? Doesn't it change the tone in which you talk? So while we think we are helping nurturing a child, we are not realizing that child is ennobling us, right? So mentoring is a similar process. It's something that gives us lasting joy and it gives us heart pay. It's not money that goes into the bank. It gives us heart pay that fulfills our heart bank. And in that process, we're finding fulfillment, and mentoring is something that gives and transforms both the giver and the receiver. So don't ever for a moment think that mentoring is a top-down process. It is truly a bilateral process where both parties win. And as we think of how mentoring is ennobling, mentoring is also helping us think about how to mindfully cultivate. What we cultivate sustains us. We reap what we sow, right? In the Western philosophy. What are we cultivating? What human relationships are we cultivating? I may be the best business person in the world. I'm good at marketing. I'm good at accounting. I'm good at strategy. I can do it all. But can I really do it all if I'm running a business? I'm human. There are only 24 hours in a day. And I can only talk about one topic at a time. I can't have 3 conversations. There is no such thing as cloning for humans yet, right? Ultimately, then, how I am going to succeed and how my vision and my purpose is propagated and how I'm leaving my mark in this world, how I'm building my economic prosperity, all of that is predicated on what am I cultivating? How mindfully am I cultivating? And in that process, am I attracting people towards me? And am I also being attracted towards people so that we are co-creating and we're co-building? I hear a lot of times people say, you know, I came into this world alone. I'm going to leave alone. I'm going to go it alone. And I always chuckle and say, actually, think about what you just said. Somebody conceived you and carried you for 9.5 months. Your mother pushed and pushed and pushed with the help of medical professionals and your father to actually bring you into this world. So you never came alone. You cannot create yourself by yourself. And when your time is over, I don't care if it's burial or cremation, at least 4 strangers are going to carry you. So if we don't come into this world alone and we don't leave this world alone, then how are we going to make sure we build those bridges and those relationships so that we can truly live in a way that we are mindful and we are cultivating and we're building bridges? And mentoring allows us to do that. And ultimately in life, it behooves us to surround ourselves with things and people who inspire us. Think about what Mother Nature has blessed us with. You go out there and look at a tree, you look at a flower, you look at a bird. Every time I look at a tree, it's inspiring me and reminding me that just because I water the roots, I don't expect anything from the roots. And the tree gives from the leaves and the branches and the fruit. It's inspiring me to remember that giving and caring and supporting doesn't have to be repaid by that same person at that same time. The universe has a way of giving back. In my culture, we say the emperor's punishment or emperor's repercussions for what we do is instantaneous, but the universe's ramifications for what we do is well-timed. It's not instantaneous. So it'll come when the time is right. All we can do is surround ourselves with what inspires us, and through that process, inspire others. And this doesn't have to be a one-directional process, and it doesn't even have to be actually thought of as a program. I have truly benefited from making this a way of life. If every person I meet is approached from the perspective of, oh my God, here is a person with their own life experience who's going to teach me, shape me, and transform me. Think about that. Even the people who end up hurting us are teaching us. They're transforming us. And my best life lessons have been learned by people who've not been good to me, because it's made me stronger. It's made me resilient. And it's truly made me realize what I do not want to be. Of all the world of possibilities, we can continue to figure out what I want to be, but it's important to figure out what I do not want to be. And so don't think of any situation as this is not a good opportunity for mentoring. I'm not going to learn from anything. We are learning. We are learning from every creature, every human interaction around us. And keeping that front and center, I would love to bring my special guest for today, Kevyn Rustici. Welcome to the show. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you join our Goldilocks community.
Hey, Dr. Cass, thank you so much for this opportunity. And it's awesome to be here with you, a true mentor of mine.
Well, my pleasure. It's a two-way street, Kevyn. So let me tell you about Kevyn. I'm going to have him say Mo, but not only does he look good, he's a kind-hearted, wonderful professional, and he lives in a professional world where he is a strategic HR business partner, and his focus flipping HR from a cost center to a profit center with data. So he understands the value of data and using data to drive change and transformation in an organization. But what I love about Kevyn is not just what he does, but who he is as a person. He is the co-host of Time Out with Leaders. And through this program, he brings insightful information by interviewing leaders for growth and opportunity for everybody so that we all benefit from those conversations. He is a natural born connector, and he truly embodies what mentoring is in a holistic lifestyle perspective. I can honestly say I have never met anybody who takes such joy in introducing people and learning from everybody, regardless of the race, religion, age, all of the differences. And to have a young person who is so excited about bridging the generational gap and learning through that process instead of discounting anybody's perspective, That is truly a joy to be. And Kevin comes to us from the United States, since we always demonstrate where people are from with our world map, given this international show. Kevin, take a moment and tell us about how you evolved into embracing this approach of every opportunity is an opportunity to grow, and mentorship is critical for your growth. Because it's not something most people of your generation embrace.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that introduction. Honestly, blown away, lost for words. So thank you. So I was doing a lot of thinking, obviously, as you and I had multiple conversations, and I think everybody can go back to that one point in their life where it was that transformational moment. And that was probably when one of my good friends passed away of cancer at the age of, I think it was 25. And you talk about a reality check, a gut check, and really starting to view life differently. I've had great teachers throughout my entire life, my grandfather, my parents, and really always asking people about themselves has always been that unique opportunity to explore from their life's journey and their life lessons. I've always, if you ask my mother, I was a child that had to learn the hard way. And then I started to realize that there's better ways to do things, and really asking people the right questions, and listening, I think, is a dying art. I think genuinely listening to people and what they have to teach you, and looking for it and listening for it, is probably really what shaped me. And then my grandfather passed away like 6 months ago, and that was again kind of brought back a lot of memories from almost like a reset for me, back to my friend, and really viewing life as how we can impact just one person's day every day, because everybody has something to teach us. And that in a nutshell, Dr. Cass, is I think really what has fueled me in this life's journey, and meeting great people like yourself.
Oh, thank you for that. You give me way too much credit, but it's always a joy, right? We talk, we share ideas. And what resonated with me, and I'm sure with the audience, is the fact that you mentioned listening is a dying art, right? When we communicate, just north of 70% of the communication is nonverbal. So if we are on our device and we are only hearing and not fully in the moment, mindfully engaged with all our senses in listening, we're only absorbing words, and that too partially. And words mean different things to different people in different contexts. So what you're telling, and I want to elaborate on that, is listening is both an art and a science. And it's about being present, keeping the focus of that conversation, and listening not just with our ears, but with our heart and our eyes and all our senses, so that we are taking in all the nonverbal cues. And by not holistically listening and being present, we are telling people that you're not that important, and what you're saying is not a priority to me. This happens a lot in meetings too, right? People are too busy taking notes. Nobody's paying attention to the real thing.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for people of all ages on how to change this behavior?
That's God, loaded question. I would say that a lot of times we hate asking for help. I think a lot of times people don't want to admit that we don't know everything. It's a sign of weakness in whatever society that we've now created. You mentioned the mobile devices. I think we're so focused on this comparison, always comparing what do they have, or what do I want. And we're constantly comparing ourselves to others, not really focusing on yourself first, and getting yourself in the right mindset of truly that giving atmosphere, and understanding and building those bridges. We have to change ourselves first before we can ever have the opportunity to help somebody else. So I really go back to the ego conversation, where we can admit that we don't know everything, but we want to learn. And I think when we can remove ourselves from the equation, and like you said earlier, is if we go into a conversation and we have hidden intentions, that's manipulation. If we go in with open arms and open minds, it's unbelievable the things that you can learn from others, and then start to apply that in your own life. So I think getting out of your own way, removing that ego, and really, again, back to listening, and looking for similarities instead of differences is also, I think, one of the pivotal pillars to that.
That very, very important point, that looking for similarities, because it allows us to build those bridges.
Agreed.
What I have found is once we build those relationships, we start realizing how valuable our differences are.
Agreed.
If we all taught the same way, I'm a visual thinker, right? When you're multilingual, you visually think of things in images, and then you pull language based on what language you're talking about. In my mind, when I think about it, what comes is a McDonald's assembly line of hamburgers, right? You're guaranteed wherever in the world you go, you get insipid, tasteless, but standard quality burgers. It has no flavor. I don't think they even catch fire, because my fireman students tried to light it and it didn't catch fire. So I don't even know if it's food, but you know what to expect and it's replicated, right? If we truly don't think differently, we're all going to be like a McDonald's burger with no flavor, no difference, regardless of who we talk. It's like Stepford wives. How boring. But instead, if our differences are somehow accentuated in the presence of our similarities, to me, that's what makes it a vibrant garden, right? If I only had roses, that garden is not going to look as pretty. But what if I had trees and rose bushes and ground covers and a water feature with water lilies and my koi pond with frogs and fish and all of this? Wouldn't that be a more beautiful garden? Why not build a garden of human relationships that way? And how do we go about finding these people? Because not everybody is willing to mentor, not everybody is willing to guide somebody. And some cultures, people actually have this scarcity mentality where I have somehow clawed my way to a position. And if I share, you will take my position, so I'm not ceding my seat. Mm. How can people start thinking about identifying the right people and then transforming themselves in that journey of being a mentor-mentee two-way street?
True. I would say go back to the lessons that we all learned back in kindergarten, right? Sharing, integrity, trust, nonviolence. Really, a lot of the lessons that we learned, like you were sharing back in kindergarten, is exactly a lot of the same lessons that I think can apply in the professional world. When you find like-minded people, it's like finding a unicorn. You and I always jokingly say it feels like that more and more. We've seen the dark side of when people kind of go into their own corners and let their own thoughts kind of permeate, and then they surround themselves with people with similar ideas, and then only those ideas are continued to fester and foster into whatever they become. And we've really seen that play out. But I've also seen the silver lining during the pandemic, that more people are interested in coming back and uniting and becoming a community again. But we have to pick our heads up, right? You were mentioning the mobile devices. We're so enthralled with the celebrities of today, the professional athletes, and some are great role models, but the individuals in our own lives right in front of us that we interact with every day are just as important. And I think it's really finding that common ground, like I said, celebrating the differences, identifying those people that have similar views, but also very different views. So you have that holistic opinion. I would agree that some people want to be mentors. Some people do not want to be mentors. But everybody loves talking about themselves. Yes. So if you have the opportunity to ask, how's your day going? Or what did you do when this happened? People love to share, and they can mentor you without even knowing it. And when you find that common ground and you develop that relationship of trust, it's a true bond. And how many people I always think back to how many people are going to be at my funeral. I want a packed house. I want a lot of people. I want to know that I impacted a lot of people's lives, whether I knew it or not. The gentleman that you mentioned that I co-host that podcast with, Tyler, sometimes we don't even see what we're doing for others unless we surround ourselves with people that can see what we're doing. And that's like the best. Like you mentioned, no hidden intentions. I'm myself. If people want to be around that, great. I live my life by the golden rule, and I really had a lot of wake-up calls throughout my life. I think when I was growing up in a Catholic school that you and I have talked about, and I could have very easily gone down a very different trajectory in my life, but the opportunity in high school to really see that multicultural difference, it could not have been clearer that we're all so similar. and it's really understanding that each and everybody has tragedy or stress, or somebody burned them in the past, and you can continue to learn, but you have to want to learn too at the same time. But I think to go back to your initial question, how to seek these people out, is get out of your comfort zone. Don't be complacent. Get out of your comfort zone and really get into that growing zone. And that's what I did during the pandemic. And again, to not hit on it again, but I met amazing people like you and Bob Whipple, and people that are really doing things the right way. And I think we've seen when we get so self-centered, the tragedies, the atrocities that we've seen in our society today, we need to get back to opening doors for people, to saying thank you, to just waving to people. I wave to people on the street, and my wife always jokes, like, you think everybody's going to wave back to you? No, I don't care if they do or don't. But as long as I'm impacting their day, I'm okay with that. And that's all. I don't care if you're a member of a country club or you're picking up trash. I treat everybody with the same integrity and again, the same intent that everybody has something to teach us.
That is some very, very insightful advice. And as I am thinking of mentoring, what comes to my mind is Robert De Niro and the movie Untitled, right? A lot of times people think mentoring is a young person learning from a senior seasoned professional, and it's structured and it's organizationally based. But to me, Robert De Niro in that movie is epitomizing, we all have something to learn from everybody else. And unlike any previous generation, today we have 4 to 5 generations in the workplace. There is experience and knowledge and know-how in the senior, older folks. And there is technology and different way of thinking and different way of doing in the millennials and Gen Zs who are entering the workforce. The richness and the ability to innovate and transform organizations and ourselves is in that intergenerational cross mentoring. And how can we help people I always tell people to go watch the movie because it's a nice tongue-in-cheek way of reminding them it's more than one-way street, right? Mm-hmm. What are the different ways we can truly help even older people realize just because you're the CEO or you're the one who built the company doesn't mean you know everything?
Yeah. Well, I always jokingly say is that you could have the greatest product on the world, but if you don't have the right people, you could have the greatest product that nobody ever heard about. And I think we again need to focus on how we got to where we are is not going to be to where we need to be tomorrow. And I think it's keeping that open mind that we all, again, have our own life's journey, our own lens, if you will, to view things. And I think that needs to be celebrated. I think there's been this shift, right? We talk about the multi-generational workforce and the differences, but like you just so elegantly put, it is our opportunity to bring in those different views, those different opinions, and those different mindsets into a room if we're creating that inclusive, safe environment for people to really share. I think it needs to be celebrated more. We've almost created this like multi-generational conflict, if you will. It's constantly pointing the fingers. It's like, again, back to the comparison. We're comparing ourselves, but we also need to understand the history of what developed each generation, what went in and during their childhood that is now impacting. I go back to my father. Father was a byproduct of the Great Depression. They viewed work very differently. They were lucky to have a job. They were fortunate to have a job. Everything they did was owed to the company. But our younger generation, what I've gone through, I saw the stock market crash in 2008. I saw the Twin Towers come down in 2001. I saw us go to the longest war that the United States has ever been in. And it really has starts to shape your opinion and your views on things differently than the other generations. And I think the second, again, that we celebrate those differences of opinion and again, understand that it doesn't matter your age. That is always one of the things that I think millennials get painted for, is like, we don't feel like we should have other people's jobs that have been there longer, right? But if we've seen things done a better way and we know there's a better way to do it, we should feel confident and comfortable to share that up the ladder. And the same voice should be heard from the CEO, from the bottom to the top. And we talked about it yesterday. Sometimes the CEOs just fall out of touch with the frontline workers. They lose touch of their customers because they continue to put themselves in that ivory tower. The second they get out of that ivory tower and walk onto the front street, they're going to start seeing things very differently. And that's really what I think it's all about, that culture design. And we always think it's monetary. It's not monetary. It's the intangible things that we can't touch, we can't see, but we can feel it.
I love how you connected the intangible to the tangible, Kevin, because ultimately each of us are a brand, right? When people think of our name, when people mention our name, there is an emotion and an expectation that is conjured up. And that is what we are building through all our human interactions, and the money follows. Mm. You're already in HR, you help organizations see this. Financial results are a byproduct and the after effect of human actions in a collaborative, coordinated way towards innovation and sustainability. Mm. If we build the right mindset for ourselves and the teams around us, then we are going to innovate with process-wise, customer service-wise, product-wise, service-wise, and then money comes. And so anytime people or organizations put money before the transformation of people, it's putting the cart before the horse. And the cart is never going to pull the horse. Financial indicators are lagging indicators. And when I say this as a CFO, people are shocked. It's like CFOs don't say stuff. Like, seriously, financial results are at best 35 days too late. Okay, so it's like driving, looking only at the rearview mirror. And I joyfully tell people the only two places you're going to go are morgue or the ER. Neither place is going to be happy, right? So you want to look through the windshield, which is your human capital, human transformational indicators. And your side view mirrors are your process and your customer service. You use those and you use your rear view mirror as a frame of reference. And if you drive your journey right, looking at the human process and customer service indicators, then what shows up in a rear view mirror is going to be what you want to see, right? So to me, that's the conversation we're having. Mentoring is a critical component of making that transformational journey for each of us. Mm-hmm. And in that process, we find our financial prosperity. And it's so important for young people to realize that don't chase money for money, chase relationships and invest in them, and then the money comes.
I couldn't agree more with you. One of the things that you said that I want to touch on is the individual, right? The person. At the end of the day, we're all people. I have a biology background from my degree. So like when you look at it as an actual organism, business in and of itself is a living, breathing organism. And I think when we change our intention, it drives our attention. So if we intend to really take care of our people, our attention is going to change and vary and be different. But again, it comes down to the individual person and understanding that they have the same wants, the same desires, the same interests. Although there might be some variance, at the end of the day, we all want security. We want to be felt like we're safe. We don't want to be fighting that fight or flight response constantly. We want to find that state of homeostasis that our body is always fighting to find. And it's really starting to now connect the mental piece to it, and really finding ourselves and being willing or man enough or woman enough to stand up and say, I don't know everything. I need help. I want help, and to seek that out. So I love this conversation with you, because it's so important. So important for businesses to start changing their mindset. And that's probably why I get frustrated at times when it could not be more clear. But we continue to fight the urge. And I think now professional business hierarchy structure is the same approach that we're taking to this multi-generational mentorship like we're talking about. And it doesn't have to be that way. That constant conflict internally is we should be celebrating and really maximizing the value of everyone.
Absolutely. I am going to open it up for 2 or 3 questions from the audience so that they can also get their thoughts, voices heard, and any questions they have answered. Anyone in the audience across the world who has any thoughts to add, any insights to share, or questions for us? Okay. Looks like everybody is.
We put them to sleep, Dr. Cass.
No, it looks like everybody's enjoying our conversation. So let me ask you this, Kevyn. As we think of mentoring and helping transformation, how can we take into consideration cross-cultural implications? Because we are more and more getting into a work from anywhere world. Mm-hmm. We don't even have to sponsor employees from other countries to come and sit next to us and work, right? So in the world of work from anywhere, and everybody's experiences and life insights are different, how can we take that into consideration when we don't see people face to face?
Mm-hmm. Important. So one data fact that I'd like to share first before we get started. Out of all the millions of Americans, I think the last census was like 329 million Americans. I think only 39 million have passports, right? We have grown to this perception that the United States is the greatest country in the world, right? But a majority of the United States citizens have never left to really even see if that is true. When we get out, and I have been fortunate enough to travel, is you get to understand that life is so much bigger than what we make it. Mm-hmm. Something that I constantly think back of when you're trying to level set or find yourself is that you look at the universe, right? You look at how small planet Earth is in the grand scheme of the actual universe itself. We are smaller than an atom, if you really think about it. So when we're feeling really big and we're feeling really confident and we have a big house and all these cars, at the end of the day, you're an atom. You're as small as an atom. So really going back, I guess, to how we would continue to evolve in this is that lifelong learning that we talked about is really genuinely going in and understanding that life is short. It's what we make of it. Having the opportunity to celebrate again that let's take religion, just start with that. It's the belief in a greater being. Now, the people that are religious, it's the belief that there's somebody bigger than thyself, right? It's the same way that we as humans should be treating each other, that we're not the sun. We're the stars, we're everything that's evolving around the sun. And our central point, if we want to get grounded, is really understanding that differences it shapes our opinion. It changes our lens. It's those old periscopes that used to change and kind of change. You really get to see people for people. I mean, we all have to eat, we all have to drink, right? Otherwise, and that's why I am a proponent for climate change, is because I think these businesses are so focused in the now, that they're so focused on, we need to make money now. If we don't have a planet to live on, what are we fighting for at that point? There's not going to be any business at that point. So we either kind of come together as a global universe and really come together as man and woman, as a species, and really try to drive ourselves, because like you said, we can go on this journey alone if we want to, but it's so much more fun and so much more fulfilling when you raise others up with you.
Yes, and doing it alone has its own set of risks that we can't address, right? Because if I'm going alone and I fall, nobody knows I fell. You know, we asked this question, if nobody heard it or saw it and a tree fell down in a forest, did the tree really fall down? Who knows?
Yeah.
Do we want to be that tree?
Mhm.
Right? Go ahead, Monique. I know you have a question. Unmute yourself, my dear.
Hi, good morning, Dr. Cass. Hi, Kevin. Thank you for joining our segment. I'm pretty energized to have us convene again. My question to you is, do you have a daily habit or a routine that has really impacted your life positively? And would you be able to share? I'd like to also follow up with a second question. What 3 books would you recommend reading? Like, what 3 books do you think impacted your life and allowed you to transform?
Loaded questions. Thank you for that. Nice to meet you, Monique, as well. Routine. I kind of go against the status quo, right? So that's my routine is really kind of taking every day and celebrating each day as its own miracle. And that's really how I wake up in the morning and approach each day, because I think then you really focus on the little things, right? We're always thinking big picture. We're always like wishing ahead, whether it was when I was 17, I couldn't wait to be 21 so I could have a drink, right? We're always wishing for the future instead of really celebrating in the moment that we're in right now. And I think when we look and view each day as a true miracle, since the loss of my friend at 27, it changes your whole view. And I think your whole landscape of how to approach each day. And I think we constantly say, I can't do things. Let's start focusing on things that we can do and what we can change and what we are already doing. I can't do this. Well, let's celebrate that what we can do. And I think it will drive your attention in different places. For the second, 3 books. So I was never really a reader growing up. It's a hobby that I would say that now I'm on this lifelong journey and talking with people like Dr. Cass that we have a lot to learn. How to Win Friends and Influence People is probably my go-to that I usually tell people, because it's the first journey in really understanding that making other people feel good. They might forget what you did for them, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's how I get to approach each day, and why I help people and why I open doors and why I introduce people in a networking setting. I don't get anything out of it in most cases, but I go in with the right intention. Other books, I'm reading one by Greg Vaynerchuk right now. It's called Life Entrepreneurs. It's really celebrating and taking back our lives and really refocusing. Is money really what makes us happy? And at the end of the day, no. And that's what, again, the comparison piece, when we compare ourselves to millionaires and billionaires, like they have the same problems that we do. They have the same the same stress, the same anxiety, the same alcoholism, addiction problems. They see therapists, I'm sure, as well. So they go through the same thing, and we need to stop putting people on their pedestal. And then most recently, one of the books that changed my life was the Return on Investment of Human Capital. Actually, I have it right next to me. It's called The Power of People. And it's really, again, kind of talks about the refocus of how we need to look at our employees differently. Dr. Cass, when I first met her, she said one of the first jobs in the United States, they referred to people as bodies. And that's something that I get to hear of very frequently in my space. And I knew that there was a different way to start viewing things and how people really propel business's success. I always say, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your profits.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Kevin. And Monique, I'll add my thoughts. To me, the one overarching purpose or the goal every day is to look at, have I made a difference in somebody else's life? And if I haven't, then I have just taken up space in a very selfish way. And I use that as my daily probing question to myself is every time I look at myself in the mirror, it is a reminder that I am here today because strangers made my life possible, because I was born and raised in the middle of a bloody genocidal civil war. And in my own home country, I was a pariah because of my race, right? But that didn't stop people in my own country from the other side of the war to put their lives at risk and save me and protect me. So I live today because we have Rohan here on the phone here on the program, people like Rohan who are from the other side of the war, but who cared enough and took children and families under their wing and took that personal risk, right? So how can I not look at myself and think about the sacrifices people have made? And then I have to live in a way that it counts for everything other people have sacrificed, right? So to me, that is the overarching rule or benchmark or question I asked myself. And it's easy to do things for people that are blood. Can we have the humanity to do something for somebody you're not related biologically? That is the yardstick for me. And in terms of books, since I'm multilingual, I've read books of multiple languages, but one of the books that influenced me very young in life that is English is All My Sons. It's written as a play. It was written by Arthur Miller, one of the husbands of Marilyn Monroe. And it was actually part of mandatory literature reading. We were educated trilingual. English was our third language. And as I read that book, it has stayed with me even as a business person. The story starts with an older, successful businessman at his son's funeral, taking a gun and putting a bullet through his head. Okay, as gory as that may sound. And then the rest of the play is a flashback. The gentleman was making airplanes for bombers during the war. And those were the days where children were recruited. You didn't volunteer to be in the military. And there was an entire production line of defective bombers that came through. And the gentleman made the choice that his son is not going to war. He needs to make quota. He needs to make profit. Who cares if somebody else's children got hurt? And so he sold that batch of defective bombers. His son got recruited. His son crashed because of the defective bomber the father sold. And only the father knows why the son died. And so here he is at his father's funeral, heartbroken that because he never thought of everybody's sons as his sons, he is burying his son. And the title of the play is All My Sons. To me, that has stayed with me from childhood all the way to a CFO and a CEO, because I can't forget that. Every time I make a choice, I have to think about, if this were my child, if this was my family, can I live with the consequences of my choices? If not, then I need to make another choice. So I will only talk about one book just so that it stays and resonates with you. And I actually encourage everybody to read plays and poetry and expand beyond books, because sometimes poetry and plays allow us to decipher so much more meaning than books, because books, people are explaining what they're thinking. And plays and poetry allow us to interject our own interpretation, just like art. So embrace them. Monique, thank you so much for the question. And it has been such an honor to have you on the show, Kevin. We definitely should have you back and continue this conversation from different perspectives.
Thank you again so much, Dr. Cass. And we'll continue our crusade to make the world a better place.
There you go. Any parting nuggets of thought for the audience as we bring this to a wrap?
The last is, I would just encourage everybody to get out of your comfort zone. I think that is where I really found my purpose. My mission is really challenging myself and stepping outside the comfort zone, because it's amazing on what you learn and what's out there.
Very, very good guidance. Yes. Getting out of the comfort zone actually allows us to see the possibilities, right? Not just what we are capable of. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that nugget of wisdom as your parting gift to us. And thank you so much to everybody for being a part of this conversation today. And I am excited to have this show restarted after a break. And look forward to having you all next week as we continue this conversation. And for those of you who are interested in learning more about transforming yourself and transforming your relationships, we are offering a Foundation for Success program. Feel free to go to Eventbrite or my social media pages and look at the free webinar that is going to be helping you identify your pain points and figure out where your opportunity to growth is, so that you can, in a focused manner, figure out ways and develop the art and science of leading with self-awareness, effective relationships, financial awareness, and a purposeful strategy. And layering to that, being able to get mentors and create a collaborative shared prosperity as we take this journey. It is the weekend. Go out there and start looking for ways to start making an impact. You are part of the Goldilocks community. We are helping everybody find that centeredness. So thank you for taking this journey and continually reminding us the importance of where the center is, because the center is shifting as the world shifts. Go out there and find ways to make your mark, make your impact, and keep transforming the world around you. And in that process, please remember to transform your own.